Is it possible to turn a quiz into cash in a way that is airtight? That is what we're going to be talking about today, and I am so excited. We have a special guest with us today, Maiko Sakai, the founder and CEO of Airtight Concepts, and we're going to get to hear some really cool things about feeding a sales funnel by using quizzes and assessments. Maiko, thanks so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And we had, a couple of conversations prior to this recording. So I'm really excited to, have a conversation today.
Awesome. Well, I'm so glad you're here. I was really intrigued when I heard about what you were doing, and I've seen companies or different media plans and things like use like a survey to kind of get things started, but I've often not seen it done very well. And when I heard about what you were doing, I was really excited about it. Just tell us a little bit about what you do and how it works, and and then we'll get a little bit into your story from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I call myself a high conversion quiz design strategist, and I focus on assessment and diagnostic style quizzes to sit on top of your funnel to collect, cold but ready to buy leads so that it runs in the background 24/7 without you touching it. Of course, it does require some, front loading work, which we're going to talk about a little bit. But if it's set up correctly, it does do the job for you. It'll help you build your email list without being so a pest about asking people to join your newsletter, which is one of my pet peeves. So it's a great tool to have, but you don't want to sort of look at it as just a lead gen tool. You want to look at it as an asset.
Yeah, and there are so many things I love about it. When I think about, I start with just the experience can be so much more personalized because the assessment itself can tell you about who it is that's responding to it. And I think of it just in terms of customer development. One of the first things I always ask students and entrepreneurs is, who's that ideal customer profile, and what better way to help to start identify that person by getting some feedback about them before you even try to push them into a sales funnel that's maybe not even a good fit.
Yeah, absolutely. You can use it that way specifically too, not just to, collect the leads and sell to them, but instead, because this is something that I hear often from my prospects or would-be clients, is that I don't have this exact offer to tie to my quiz yet, so I'm not ready to work with you. And here's what I would say. I'm not trying to sell you anything, but you could actually use that as a validation tool instead of a lead gen tool. Start putting your quiz out and see who is, coming to your ecosystem. Ask them more additional questions via email sequence or stuff like that. Then build your offer, especially for service providers. They're selling intangibles, right? And they often assume, oh, this is what my people need, whether that's a group program or digital products or even one-on-one consultation. They just assume a lot of things. Instead, why don't you just ask them, those quiz takers, what they need help with? Then they're going to end up with a product or an offer that they want. So why don't you use that in that way?
Yeah. Well, I love the way that brings kind of the customer development process right into the beginning of it as well, kind of
Yeah.
identifying who the customer is, getting their feedback, learning from them. And at the same time, starting to filter, what aspect of what we do, whatever that is, whatever it is that you're doing, what is most helpful. And so not just kind of having a cookie cutter where everyone gets the same thing or there's even the same pitch, it might be very different as you move someone through.
Yeah, absolutely. And the funny thing about it is that a lot of business owners do get confused about surveys and the quizzes. There's a distinct difference between them. Do you want me to address that just a little bit?
Oh, I'd love to hear, yeah, the distinction there, and also just the science behind this, because I think sometimes you see these quizzes and someone clearly just threw something together or threw it into ChatGPT. But
Yeah.
what you do, I mean, there's a real science in psychology. Maybe if you can unpack that for us, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So the clear distinction between surveys and quizzes is this. Surveys are built for the companies or brands or organizations, which are offering those surveys, right? So they're the party to, receive the benefits, basically. On the other hand, the quizzes are built for those quiz takers to their benefit so that, a lot of times I would call that to be their self-discovery. There's a huge difference. I mean, you can come up with a survey as a brand. Let's just say, John, you have a brand and you want to create a survey to learn more about your potential customers or existing customers, but you're going to have to incentivize it enough for them to want to take it because they already know that there's not much in it for them unless like they win a, $25 Starbucks card or Amazon gift card or, one of those things, right? But instead, if you offer a quiz to say, you are going to discover something about yourself, their buy-in is a lot faster. And to answer your question about what's involved in creating such quiz is that it needs to be psychology infused, to your point, and also it needs to be highly gamified because they don't know you or your brand or what you do in your business. They're coming to your quiz only because your quiz title intrigued them. They wanted to know something about themselves, or they wanted to solve certain challenges or problems that they might be having by looking at your quiz title. So they have no loyalty to you. And you need to make sure that you give everything to their, satisfying their curiosity or, self-discovery. You basically need to make sure your quiz is value-packed. That's the most important thing. And that's where I come in to help my clients with it.
Yeah, I love that. Well, because, you're essentially giving the person a reason to take the quiz. They're learning about themselves. They're learning more about what they do.
Yeah.
I think of two examples that come to my mind that I've seen this done well. One's an organization called Think Media. Sean Cannell is the founder of that. He wrote the book called YouTube Secrets, and they coach YouTubers. And when you go through their quiz, they have a 7 kind of stage progression of YouTubers. And what they do so artfully is the quiz helps you figure out where you are. Right. And which of those but the whole progression is built to show you if you're in phase 3, like, here's what you need to do to get to phase 4. If you're in phase 6, here's what you need to get to phase 7. So it's not only are they helping you to self-assess and figure out where you are, but they're also putting you on a path. And they have a lot of, tools and coaching and capabilities to help you on that path. And I've seen that really effective. The second one, it really reminds me so much of, the classic example, Warby Parker, where you don't even necessarily know what your style is, what frames are just right for you until you go through their style quiz. And now they take your picture and you have all these, things and you make your selections. And I don't wear glasses, but, if I did, I probably would get them from Warby Parker because they create such a personalized experience just through that. So what are some examples of, just organizations, companies, creators you've worked with, and how have you helped them to create this kind of a path?
Yeah, so my favorite definitely is this political activism quiz. I am so far from that topic itself, but what my client did was an extensive research. Like they must have spent 2 or 3 years, but they came up with this interesting framework based on this belief that everybody is a leader, but they need to be approached and assigned differently so that they can shine, which was a completely different type of leadership quiz. So that was my favorite. And what they did with questions were so interesting. So I always talk about this. This question is not part of their quiz, but it was number 2 contender. So here's a quick example. You parked your car in the garage to do something, and it's a paid parking lot, right? you're ready to leave, and you naturally drive up to the bar, the bar area where you can just insert the ticket and make a payment or whatever it is. But for some reason, the bar is up.
Mm.
What would you do at that moment, right? So that the answers were something like you would drive right past through it. That's one option, isn't it? Or you would park right there, get out of the car, look for an attendant so that you can make a payment, on and on and on. But if you saw that question and answers, you wouldn't know that it's a leadership quiz. But that's where this whole psychology and the scenario-based, questions come in. So that is one of my favorite for sure. But I also worked with HR agency or high net worth, the tech founder, consultant, and the career coach, you name it, all those service providers, they have something to offer. But, my job is to dig deeper with that to find out what they really wanted to learn from those quiz takers. And I love every bit of it. And I don't really care about the sector or industry. I always look for something that's kind of a challenging. So, if you're in the sector that is kind of a rigid and dry in a sense, it could be insurance or finance or HR, they have protocols and regulations that they need to be mindful of, but we can always find a way to create one.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about the next phase. And I know we haven't even gotten into the origin story yet, but this is so fascinating. How do you connect the dots from someone takes a quiz and now you're connecting to a sales funnel of some sort? What are some of the things that kind of help that transition without it being like a kind of just overt, like take the quiz and, oh yeah, now we're going to sell you something. Like how does that work?
Right. It's very important. So even before we get to that, I make sure that the quiz itself is, the high caliber, high quality, just so that once they take it, they have no problem entering their primary email addresses, not secondary or, any other type of, the unimportant email addresses. So everything to do with that requires heavy copywriting, basically. So you can't just throw in a question because you came up with a question, right? Or you can't just throw your questions into ChatGPT or Claude or whatever of your choice to say, give me like 7 different questions that I ask in the quiz. You really have to copyright them just so that their experience is really special while they're going through your quiz. So it starts even from there, right? Including the quiz title, the description of it, the type of questions and type of answers. Once you nail that, you make sure that your results page, you need to understand how many outcomes you're going to have out of your question. Could be 3, it could be 5. The sweet spot that I would say is anywhere between 5 to 9, probably max. Some quizzes do have like 14 different outcomes, but it's very much it's a lot of work. So I don't recommend it. But whatever archetype of persona or the outcome they get, they wanted to understand deeper about themselves. So that copywriting there is also very meaty in that sense. So you wanted to make sure that they are very meaty so that they feel like they're getting value back immediately after they take the quiz, right? Yeah. Then there's the email sequencing that you can create and design. I have the 7 email sequence framework. At a minimum, you go through that process so that you are consistently nurturing your new audience. Then you have different CTAs there. But I don't really say that you need to wait long enough before you start offering things. You can offer things immediately, almost. If your quiz is very good, you can do that right away.
Yeah, that's really good. So talk a bit, you mentioned the term archetype. What does it mean in your environment, and what are some examples of that?
Such an excellent question. So this is what I advocate for. Normally, I don't advise my clients to rank people by the outcomes. So you want to create those archetypes that are persona driven somehow, if you can make it that way. And everybody who gets an archetype, they can feel proud of, so that, this whole user generated content is going to go wild. That's what we're aiming for. So here's an example, and I'm sure my client doesn't mind using this because she came up with such a great name. She's an author and also risk management specialist. So she wrote a book about risk management and running a business, right? And there is one archetype, one persona who really aren't like risk averse. Let me just put it that way, right?
Yeah.
But you really don't want to make them feel bad in any way, shape, or form. So she came up with this archetype name called Wonderfully Wild.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's a nice way of putting it. And they also feel proud of getting that to say, yeah, spot on. And I don't
That's
feel
me.
bad about it. I am wonderfully wild. And kind of care that goes into those things is really, really important in quiz creation.
Yeah. It was interesting, with all the AI tools and artifacts now starting to give the annual review.
Yeah.
ChatGPT gave me its profile for the year, and it said I'm an explorer.
Right.
Which
Oh,
I
nice.
think is a really nice way of saying you're all over the place.
No, you're still exploring all sorts of different avenues, so it's still positive. But yeah, you get the point.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely giving that positive spin on that, and I do think it's I think so many times you see these quizzes like you're kind of excellent, good, fair, poor, as opposed to saying, hey, you're unique, and here's some insight about that uniqueness.
Yeah.
That then reflects on that brand of the customer, not the brand of the business as much.
Absolutely. Here's another example for you. So I had two quizzes that I created, and those are, they're tied to my origin story, of course. And there was one archetype that I named the new category creator. Those are the people who would monetize on their personal brand, which is a great thing, right? There's no category for them, so they're going to have to pave their own path. But that can also be a challenge as well, but it's not negative. And the why I think this is so important is this: once they're proud of their art, their archetype, they're basically speaking your language already. So for example, I use this new category creator, right? They are speaking up saying that I am a new category creator and I'm proud of it. It's so easy to work with those people who understand your language. And I cannot emphasize enough that point. It's so, so important.
Yeah, that's really good. Well, thanks for just, giving us an overview of Airtight and Airtight Concepts and what you're doing.
Yeah.
I would love to just go back to the beginning. When did it all start for you, and what was the spark that really got you started on this path?
It's such a funny thing because I never set out to do this work, but I am so happy doing this work. It took a few different iterations. So first, I started out my career working for, a bunch of record labels in New York City, and I was doing music licensing. So my first business was actually still doing music licensing because there were many labels which couldn't really hire full-time body to do that part of work, even though they needed it. So I was catering to that, but that kind of fizzled away. So what do? Right. And my background, kind of managing finances and other things, kind of turned into being a business manager. So that was my second iteration, to become a business manager for, high net worth entertainment clients. But then I really didn't like that so much, only because I wanted to help them from different things, not just about the finance or accounting. I wanted to help them with overall strategy, where they can go, who to hire and how to operate smoothly and all that stuff. So my third iteration was becoming more of a general, management consultant for agencies. And that lasted for quite a bit. But then I realized, you know what? I wanted to give quiz a try, basically, to promote my business. Basically, it started from my own need to create a quiz. And I didn't think anything of it, meaning that I knew what I wanted to do with my quiz. So I created them there too, and I used them. But what happened was they did really well. Actually, one of them did really well. The first one didn't, but it actually impacted a lot of people in the sense. So the first one was okay. The second one did really, really well. And people started to ask me how I did it, and they want that, something like that for their business. So I said, well, that's a validation right there. Why should I overthink it? Right. So that's how I started.
Wow, that's great. So when it was starting to work and you were starting to really get traction, what are some of the things you did to start to expand it, maybe shore it up as you were validating some of your assumptions?
Yes. So my second quiz, when that hit, I experimented a lot more, and I was careful about how to name it so that Google will be kind to my quiz. All of those things, strategic things that went into it, and started to see results. I can see analytics clearly where they came from. And in the beginning, I also experimented with some paid ads, not too long. Probably could have been anywhere between 2 to 3 weeks or so, but that didn't do really well. So I stopped it. But then a minute I stopped it, it started to take off. Most of the people are coming from Google search and Pinterest and, stuff like that. So anyway, like I learned so much from the second quiz that I knew I had a lot to offer. So when people come into me and they said, I want something similar, your quiz is kind of different. I don't find it anywhere else. Do you think, is there something that I can have? And they say, yes, I made all the mistakes. Let me put a framework together so that I can help you with it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned, uh, Google and, the kind of the SEO of the quiz, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. How's that been affected by AI? I know a lot of SEO kind of focused businesses have been impacted by, the way AI's kind of changed the way people search.
Yeah.
What have you experienced so far?
So to be honest, it's too soon to tell. That's the reality at this moment. But with all my clients, what I'm trying to do is that first 90 days or 180 days of their quiz launch, after they launch it, it still requires a lot of a hands-on marketing and a promotion, but that determines how well it goes, afterwards in that sense. So we'll definitely, be mindful of SEO and other things, but the organic promotion is definitely key. So I always
Mm.
prep them that, listen, I know this may not be something you wanted to hear, but you just have to push the flywheel a little bit harder in the beginning and it's going to start spinning. But if you skip that part, it may not go anywhere. So whether, the generative engine optimizations, I think it's now call it a GEO, right? Not
Yeah.
SEO. That's remain to be seen. Like I haven't seen anything that's negatively impacted, but I'm sure there are a lot of things that we can strategically do to take advantage of it. But I haven't really discovered that, like a sure way to go about it. Still experimenting.
Yeah. As part of your growth, have you mostly just focused on expanding on your own, or have you started to build a team and other infrastructure? What are some of the
Yeah.
things that have kind of helped you to go beyond just, one quiz and one person?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm at the point right now where I'm starting to think of training someone to actually take on the actual projects. Up to this point, I did not want to delegate that part because there are a lot of nuances and, the things that I do sort of naturally without thinking about it. So what I'm doing right now is documenting really step by step. And, when I face a challenge with my clients in terms of the direction of the quiz or how to, position it or how to design it, all of those things. I'm trying to document as much as possible so that I can create this master manual type of thing. When this happens, your, best approach will be XYZ. I haven't done that before, but it's time for me to do so that, I can actually hire somebody for that part. Maybe not in its entirety, but portion of it can be, done by someone else potentially. But I do get help from, for more of a back end operations of my business. That is not a hard thing to do. So it's definitely part of my growth plan to really fortify that end, then start training some of the specialists so that they can call themselves, also the high conversion quiz design strategist, certified sort of by me. Whether or not like I'm going to give them a license, that's just another thing that I need to explore, but I get to train them. So that's on my plate right now.
Yeah. How does technology play into your approach and your growth plans? How are you leveraging technology to support what you're doing?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. So my use of AI is very heavy.
Mhm.
I would say this, but when I say that, this doesn't mean that I'm just throwing, quiz topic ideas into GPT or Claude or Gemini. That is not going to generate good results. But it's
Mhm.
more of a hands-on approach. Before going into it, I know exactly what I'm looking for so that, my prompts will be in way more detail, right? So that I get high quality output from those tools. But I use that heavily in my client work. So that's one thing. So if that is taken away tomorrow, oof, I'm going to have a capacity problem. So that's one thing. But also like onboarding, offboarding, like normal client, facing work, those things are becoming more automated as well using tools for, the filling out the form we often share, I use shared, Google Doc, but the template is already there so that they don't derail from the structure itself. There's so many things that, I can use. And yeah, I'm very much open to using all those tools that would really help me streamline everything.
Yeah. What are some of the technologies you've used to support automation? You've mentioned that a few times coming through, and maybe both the front end and the back end.
Yeah, so that the front end, I also have my own funnel, which is not currently a quiz funnel. It's coming up because I'm sunsetting my older quizzes. That's going to carry a heavy automation, obviously, so that the promotion part can be, pre-scheduled content. And that can lead to free download of something. I currently have a blueprint, which is for people who wanted to create a quiz to understand the framework step by step so that, they don't stall or they don't quit, all of those things. It's running in the background. So anytime I mention it, people know where to go and how to get it. And they stay on my email list. And I offer, all different types of services that I offer. That part is automated. And the quiz automation that is coming up as well, which is also 24/7 fully automated funnel where, I just need to nurture them over email. So that's another one that I would be using, the brand new one that I will be using. And other than that, like scheduling my emails, it sounds very simple, but I do that often as well because when I can get my work done, um, I will be more focused and I will get it done, but it might be too ahead of time, meaning that, that this can wait for, say, another 2 days or 3 days, in terms of my email reply. Then I just schedule it so that I can get it done and forget about it. So there are small things to big things that I can, automate anywhere I can, I tap into that as well, but I'm still learning. So anybody who has any, suggestions about automating, onboarding or offboarding, I'm always, listening to those things and implement them as I go along. It's
Yeah,
very important though. Yeah.
yeah. You mentioned the email sequencing. Do you have a particular technology you find works best for that?
Yeah, so anywhere, like any type of email CRM can work. I'm usually not the person to force my belief onto my clients. Sometimes they already have a setup and they don't want to switch, which is fine.
Mhm.
For my business, I currently use MailChimp.
Okay.
And, that's a robust email CRM where you can, design your journey, which is email sequence. You can do that. But there are many other companies that do well, like, for example, Kit. By
Mhm.
ConvertKit, that's a good one as well. MailerLite is great. And also, a lot of service providers are now moving to Go High Level, which is all in one system. So it's not just the email CRM. It does host a website. They can, host their digital courses, all of those things. And I'm okay with that as well. So there are so many tools. It really depends on what you wanted to get out of, right? So if you really want everything to be in one place, it could be Go High Level or it could be Kajabi,
Mhm.
those are the kind of tools. Or you wanted to handpick your email CRM. There are, several of them are doing well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, and just that ability to kinda have, like, regular communications and to bring someone through a progression. What would be a simple, like, email sequence path from someone, completes a quiz?
Yeah.
What might be and not like, 25 deep, but, like, what would be, like, kinda some of the big touch points on a workflow for an email sequence?
Yeah, that's a good question. I always focus on what they wanted to see. So I try to put myself in their shoe, those quiz takers. What do they want to see after they take the quiz? So that the first one is always kind of a static, meaning that they will get it immediately after they take the quiz, talking about their archetype, because again, it's still all about them, what they wanted
Mhm.
to know about themselves. And I highly encourage my clients to attach a PDF version of the results, because here's what happens. When they take your quiz, let's just say you have one, they take your quiz on their phone. Once they see the results, but when they close the browser, or tab, it goes away. So they can only remember what they read, what they skimmed. But what if they receive an email immediately after they're done with the quiz and they get a PDF version of it? Wouldn't that be valuable? And the answer is yes, absolutely. You can do a video series from there if you prefer doing video. It doesn't have to be PDF often. Maybe you share a link to your video message. That's also personalized as well. So the first email is really important. It's still all about them. You don't have to talk about your company or what you do. Make sure that they understand the results that they got. Then the second, the third, the fourth, it can be about reintroducing yourself that, oh, I am the creator of this quiz and I'm glad that you enjoyed it. And this is the reason why I created it. And if you
Mhm.
wanted to know more, either you can book a call or you can watch another video, whatever of your choice, and progress it gradually, just so that they don't feel like they've been salted, because that's the last thing that you want to do to them.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's really helpful, and just I've seen how that can be really powerful to kind of keep the connection, but also being thoughtful about, if you hit everybody with an email every day for 4 or 5 days in a row, it's like, it's immediately going to be
Oh,
like,
no,
okay,
no, 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 no. So,
yeah,
yeah, the only thing that they get immediately would be the first one, after they get, done with taking the quiz, right? But then you want to spread it out a little bit. The second one can be the next day, just so that they would remember they took the quiz. God knows some people can be taking 3 quizzes a day randomly just because they saw them, right? So
hmm
the second one can be the next day, but after that, you do want to spread it out a little bit more, not every single day or twice a day, 3 times a day. I don't recommend that at all.
yeah, it's really good. So we've heard a bit about how it all began, and now the growth that you've experienced and the things that you're doing to really advance the business. For you, what does it mean to thrive as a founder and as an owner?
Yeah, so the number one thing for me is that I absolutely have to enjoy the work. And I finally feel like, after three iterations of doing different things in my business, this feels right. So that's part of my thriving. I even love when things don't go well, to be honest. Like we may have to rewrite something or restructure something. It doesn't happen often, but when those things happen, those are the kind of a sign that we can do better, right? And I get actually excited about it instead of I feel drained about it. That's a huge telltale sign to me, whether or not I'm doing something I love. So
Nice.
that is a huge component of me thriving. And the more complex the quiz can be. So even though it sits on top of the funnel, let's be real that you wanted to make sure that it is intriguing enough, but it has some level of depth, especially if you're selling high ticket offers, right? That complexity makes me feel like I wanted to just keep going. The more complex it is, more joyful I get, which is a kind of weird thing. Like, it's almost like I'm beating myself up in a sense, but I love those challenges, Oh, hey, wait
Yeah.
a minute. Maybe we can dig deeper on this one. Or even when we talk about different types of archetypes, should it be five altogether? Are we missing something? Or some of them may be overlapping the same kind of a concept. That's where the whole me-see concept comes in, the mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive, right? When I'm
Mm.
testing all those things, I just love doing that work. But then, there's the future forward part of me is asking, how can I make this entire experience to be even more exciting? So, I told you before about potentially like there might be some kind of an animation that comes into the overall design experience. It's more like the the year in review that ChatGPT gave you, kind of thing. It's a really nicely designed one. In terms of UI UX. Can that be added to it? Can
Mm.
that be done inside of email? So there is one technology that's allowing us to do that, but at the moment, I think the pricing point is way too high for most of the business owners. Is it going to come down? When it's going to come down and when it's going to be available for us? I'm really excited about that. The whole experience becoming, instead of just taking a quiz, answering the question and go to the next page, that's what any type of quizzes are doing right now. But what if it expands and animate? Those are the things that I'm kind of thinking about for the future.
Yeah, that's really good. What would you say is your vision long term for Airtight?
Yeah, so my vision is for me to potentially, so I may pivot from here, right? But the recurring theme that really lights me up is about doing assessment and diagnostics.
Mm.
So, maybe it doesn't come in a form of a quiz, but it could be something a little bit different. This is an extension of the question that I answered previously, but how can we do it in a way that is more in-depth, even potentially, a longer version of it? People may pay for those diagnostics and get their challenges or problems solved. How can we evolve? Those are the things that I wanted to sort of keep working on and expand from it, even if that may require another pivot, which I'm fine with, because we do have to evolve, right? We're business owners, but we go through different iterations and evolutions. And I'm excited about those that I may not know exactly where we're gonna go. So yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. So, if someone's listening to this today and they're thinking, this might be right for me, like, how would you help them to identify you're the right kind of business and you have the right kind of mindset for this type of an approach?
Right. So there are two journeys, right? The one journey is what we talked about, how you might want to use this tool to gain more insights. In that
Mm.
case, you could be someone starting out a business. That is okay. you may not have an offer or services that already crafted to go with it. In that case, you're going to look at it as a validation and a research tool. Then you are the right fit. And, reach out to me, of course. But the second journey is for some service providers who have been in the business and kind of understand their client base, what they want, from them. And they may also have some level of IP, intellectual property, whether that's a framework, methodology, or system that they built to serve their clients. Those are great for having a quiz on top of the funnel. So, I can talk to them about that as well. So there are two different types.
Yeah, that's great. So if someone's thinking that's me, what are some ways they can learn more about what you do or even get
Yeah.
in contact with you?
Yes. Thank you. Well, they can come to my website, maikosakai.com, and explore, some of the downloads that they can do to learn more about how to craft a quiz, or they can take my quizzes as well just to see what I'm talking about. That would be a great start. And if not, and if you're active on LinkedIn, just send me a message or comment on my content. That would be a great place to, get a conversation started.
I love that. And we'll make sure all those links are in the description below if anyone wants to find those. And then I think the last question I have with that would be along those lines would be, if someone implemented this, what kind of outcomes might they expect, or what might the impact be on their business if they put
Yeah.
these things in place?
So for example, if someone who comes to me and work on a quiz, we usually set up the clear KPI and the goals before we even getting started for this. So it might look like, I wanted to double my sales calls potentially. Then we're going to strive for that. Of course, there's no guarantee with it, but that can be possible. And some of my clients are actually doing that actively, through quiz. If your goal is to build your email list with relevant, highly qualified leads, then we're going to set a number for that. My quiz did, on average, anywhere from 150 to 300 new email subscribers coming through to my quiz. And I wasn't running ads at that time. So total, my second quiz, which did really, really well, 12,000 people have taken it over 3 years or so. And my rate for the unsubscriber rate after they joined was always less than 1%, if not zero.
Wow.
So it's not just about, well, how much money can I make out of a quiz? That can be part of our plan, of course, but we need to be really clear on, what can we do with it so that enough amount of people, relevant people, will come through to your quiz per month, and how many of them are actually opening the emails and, interacting with it, whether they click on book a call link or they downloaded something or they watched the video. We monitor all of those things so that eventually all of those things will lead to sales. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're doing. So we're not, we're not ignoring that. We're always focused on the end game of actually converting them to be your regular customers.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and I even hear from what you're saying, it sounds like it builds a level of trust
A lot
because
faster.
because you're getting to know them. There's an empathy side of it, and there's a value exchange right from the beginning, and then creating that loyalty that comes along with that trust, that there is an opportunity for sales, maybe not just in the short term, but longer term.
Yeah. And this is
So
great for introverted entrepreneurs, especially because this funnel doesn't require them to show their faces. Actually, that's not required at all. Like, we don't want that to happen throughout the funnel. So,
yeah.
they can focus more on their insights, their experience, their intellectual property, making sure that those things are infused into their quiz so that it will do the talking for them. And it's such a wonderful tool for that, so that, you don't have to dance for TikTok or, something like that.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, Micah, thanks so much for spending time with us today and just sharing your story. It's just
Yeah.
really interesting to hear what you do. It's such a unique approach, and just hearing your story of how it all started and how you've been growing it, and really your why, what it is that you're really seeking. Before we wrap up, I always like to ask this question, and I know
I
you,
know
you
it's
have.
coming.
I know you have an interesting answer as well. So, what is your favorite founder film?
So I had to think about this for some time. And I knew I had one, or not just the one, but a handful. But this is what I ended up with. It's the movie called Chef
Oh, let's
by
go,
Jon
John Favreau.
Favreau.
Yeah.
So I think it was like back in what, like a 2015 or 14, I think. And it's been a minute, the last time I watched it. But what I loved about it was like, it was such a founder film, even though it wasn't about that. The chef who got like really bad reviews over Twitter or something ended up starting a food truck and, basically starting over, right? And sometimes we go through with that while we're pivoting inside of our business. So that's one. And you realize that you have to clean the greasy, grill or the patching up the truck, all
Yeah.
those things. And yeah, that's you, right? Like you are the one who has to do it. It's such a humbling thing. But then while they're traveling across the country, they're gaining momentum and all of those things. I kind of feel like that would be my favorite. Of course, I love talking about food. We didn't talk about food at all, throughout this interview, but I often use food analogies in anything that I do. So my connection to that film, is very, very deep in that sense. And when I thought about it, I'm like, man, I have to watch it again. And I'm going to, I think this week, because I kind of miss it. Like, yeah, I loved it so much.
Yeah. Oh, that's a favorite of mine as well. Of course, I just think John Favreau is such a great actor and
Yeah.
director and producer. And there was such an interesting, you had such a really clear entrepreneurial story. Just that life moment, that spark, that moment where he's like, I've got to do something different.
Yeah.
And just the way it impacted his relationships, the relationship with his son, the way that developed, and how he was almost like, trying to push his son like away, like, hey, get out of the way. I'm going to start a business. And what really
Right.
made the business thrive was his son helped him to build in public by
Live
vlogging and blogging
streaming
about
or
it along the way. And
yeah,
yeah,
exactly. And I think it still holds true, right? Even
yeah,
though in 2026, and it is all about like capturing all the fans, storytelling, all those things. It's still very relevant,
yeah,
actually more than
absolutely.
ever.
Yeah. Well, if anyone's watching this and thinking, I would like to really see the business side of that, I actually did a business model canvas breakdown of Chef, of the movie, of like how he built
Oh, no
that business.
way.
So I have a video on this channel to check out with that. It's funny, I'm talking about the food connection as well. I'm doing I'm doing a class right now called the Influencer Startup, and I'm creating the class video each week while I'm cooking dinner for everyone. So it's kind of a little cooking show, kind of quasi. I'm not an expert chef by any stretch of the imagination, but I've been having a lot of fun learning what it takes to create a cooking show. So
Yeah, I
it's
love
been.
that concept. But that's what people wanted to see, right? This whole personal side of things. It's not all about highly produced videos or, highlight reels over Instagram. People are pretty tired of it. Instead, they would love to see screenshot of something, that you just cropped it on your phone, or just carrying the small camera and do walk and talk. Those are the things that really capture everybody's interest. And that's something that I love thinking about. How can I incorporate it into what I do right now? And it's so fascinating.
Yeah. Well, Michael, thanks again for being here with us. This was an awesome conversation. I can't wait for everyone to hear your story.
Thank you so much again for having me. This has been a pleasure.
Awesome. Keep going.